Hello everyone. I am Siddhant and I have Amitya with me. Today we are going to talk about the new fastn architecture that we have been working on recently, and we are also going to talk about the fastn mail, which is the P2P email service that we have been trying to architect recently. So I'll hand over to Amitya. Amitya, you can start.
Okay, so in the previous we discussed some high level stuff. Now let's talk more of what are we focusing on a immediate-ish basis? What is our
Sorry, can
thing?
you
And it's
start
actually an interesting.
again because my internet was finicky.
Yeah. So, in the previous discussion, in the first episode, we had a little bit higher level philosophical ideas about Fastn is as a language and also company and open source and blah blah. But now we are going to talk about something which is kind of newish thing that we are going to start working on. So it's a very interesting time for us to like build in public kind of stuff. So the stuff that we are going to talk about is not yet there technically. Like the Fastn as a language, as a platform kind of exists, and we will discuss that in some other episode. So today we are talking about Fastn exists as a language and a platform, but it doesn't exist yet as a a peer-to-peer web framework, right? Like so Fastn is basically going to become from just a general purpose web framework to a web framework which is optimized for offline first kind of use cases for building peer-to-peer applications. Unlike most other web frameworks are designed like Django and Rails and PHP, etc., kind of designed for client server model where Django runs on the
Mm.
server and obviously everyone is using a browser and that's the client server model. So we are talking about a different model in which the, the software that you runs on your infrastructure, right, on your laptop, on your mobile, and so forth. So we built Fasten the language and framework from that has been one of the highest how do I say priority when we were taking a lot of decisions. We took that as the highest guiding principle. Key at some point you will be running Fasten completely on very low powered, let's say a TV or a webcam or the door cam and all sorts of smart devices, all sorts of laptop, Raspberry Pi. So we wanted not just to be a language for just high and desktop and mobile, but we wanted to be a language for the whole solving UI at all levels. Anyway, so in order to solve, let's say if I solve the TV, I have to solve not just the UI and logic, programming logic point of view. I also have to solve the networking point of view, which is how am I going to my laptop is going to connect to my TV because neither of us have a public IP address, right? So that's where Django and PHP, etc., don't have any solution. They just assume you have to have an IP address, otherwise you're out of luck. We are like, no, actually, you can actually have a completely seamless. Let's see how good the application would be, but this kind of architecture exists, or rather, is what we are heading towards. So the good thing is we are starting almost from scratch. Like so we have done off late a bunch of work with peer-to-peer with Kulfi and Malai projects. So obviously we have been. So the idea of integrating something like this was in my head way back. I would say local support was there in 2019, for example, in the first version of Fifth that I used to use as my personal note take. So Fifth started as a personal note taking software that I
Mhm.
used to use just for myself, and then it became like a SaaS and whatever. I tried to become SaaS and a funded company. So 2019 only I had a local Fifth at that was FT binary. So FT binary I would install, it'll do syncing. So I believe it is essential feature for us to be able to access our data offline, right? So that's and then the entire Fifth Fasten is kind of designed to make that feature where offline data is first class data, right? So how does it work? Like, yeah, it's enough kind of like a high level talk. We are about to start, so we have just written down some sort of like a high level architecture. So I'll take you through that in this call. So one thing I'll give you a background. Current Fasten that you have on the GitHub, etc. Main branch is Fasten 0.4, and we are working towards Fasten 0.5, and 0.5 is almost going to be a rewrite. So we have a lot of, if you look at our crate structure, we have a lot of crates at the top level, and then there are a bunch of crates at the fasten 0.5 level. There is some crates just shared. Some of the crates here are used by fasten 0.4, and some of the crates over here are used by 0.5. So it's not complete rewrite, but it is kind of like it is a rewrite. It is kind of definitely this new folder existed, and we are soon going to hopefully move out. Anyways, so now let's think about the peer-to-peer memory model for like how do you think about peer-to-peer offline first application, right? So traditionally, you just have to worry about IP address and running some sort of server there. You do have to worry about things like in traditional cloud applications are how do I say multi-user applications, right? The most fundamental difference between peer-to-peer applications and cloud traditional client server application is that in traditional cloud application you will create a users table or user table or whatever, and you will store all the users right in that single table, and then every single other table that stores some user specific data will have some sort of foreign key to the
Mm,
to the user, and you have like this is the centralized architecture, right? So that's how you build in Django and Rails and all of those places. In Fasten you don't think like that. In Fasten in you do not have multiple users, right? In fact we are thinking about a completely inverted thing where there are probably multiple devices that you have are all separate Fasten servers running on your behalf. So we're not talking about one Fasten server serving thousands and millions of users. We are talking about for a single person like you or me, there are like 10 Fasten servers running, right? One Fasten running on each of our devices. And they are somehow, capable of talking to each other and so forth, right? And similarly, so in my database, I will not have to, obviously, I'm still sharing data with you. So in this universe also, we will have multiple users because that's the reality. You will exist and I will exist. Your data will live in your database and my data will live in my database, and our databases or rather our applications, which is Fasten basically, will talk to each other to exchange data, right? And whenever you're accessing your Fasten server, and I'm accessing my Fasten server, right? So in the background, some sort of peer-to-peer exchange will happen of which will make sure that the data that we are all both share. Let's say, for example, we are both working on together on a simple a Google Docs like application, right? Like some sort of document that we are both editing because of whatever, right? It's a shared document. So in that case, we will both have that document in our respective databases and possibly multiple times over. Like for example, on my laptop also, I will have that database in my laptop, which also on my phone, for example, and so forth. So if I have a Google Doc shared with you, that Google Doc document might reside in so many different databases, right? So each of your devices have a database, each of my devices have a database, and they are kind of somehow talking to each other and syncing data with each other. So any of the devices, if any edit happens, that somehow will go to all of these other devices. Right? That's what Fasten is going to do for you. Right? So as a framework, we will take care of all of these. You as an application developer will simply get some sort of like a Mongo or whatever, no SQL, like a JSON object document store or whatever you call it, where you have a key and a value would be a sort of like a tree, and you can obviously write your application with just that, and when you save that document will automatically somehow get synced with all the other people that it is supposed to be, and then similarly when the document changes, you can write some sort of like a update, a notification callback which will update your UI, right? So for example, if you and me are modifying the same document, so it will inform your UI and my inform UI that both of us has changed. When either of us change something, the UI will automatically. So in the real time, if you want to build some sort of real time application where you and me are typing simultaneously and we are seeing each other's changes relatively in a near real time, we will be able to build that with Fasten. And as a Fasten app developer, you will not really have to do much. You just have to think in terms of the model that I am discussing right now, right? So So that's a very high level idea. Obviously, if there are multiple devices and Fasten running on each other behalf, they can do more than just our database syncing. They can also do email. So we will be discussing email as a one particular this
Mhm.
thing. But let me go through this in a more of a.
By the way, your
So we
screen is not visible anymore. So
okay. Let me share it again. Yeah.
yeah, go back.
So, so Fasten, like is a it's like BitTorrent or Bitcoin, right? So think of Fasten as sort of like a decentralized thing. It is completely decentralized, meaning it's running on my laptop and your laptop, right? So if just you and me are running Fasten, we are part of this decentralized network, and it's kind of built completely on top of Airo. Airo is a brilliant, great, and brilliant ecosystem. I highly recommend that we check it out. We will go deeper into how Airo and P2P really works, but let me take a look at some higher level ideas and give you some sort of mental model about what is going on. And so when you start Fasten, right? So currently Fasten, when you run it has a Fasten serve command. We are going to add a new command, Fasten run, right? So that Fasten run is going to tomorrow become the Fasten, right? So at some point we will have some more like we will be launching Fasten as a desktop app, as a mobile app, and so forth. So when you launch Fasten as an app, what you will see is what is being described here, right? So this behavior is what will happen. Currently, Fasten also exists as a web server. Only so Fasten serve you can use it. But anyway, so Fasten run for now is how if you're going following along with code, Fasten run is the current CLI that we are going to be launching. Now, when you run Fasten run, what we do is we create some sort of like a folder for you, right? So in your slash tilde somewhere, tilde slash somewhere dot fasten, we use operating system specific folders
Mhm.
to store data. So we store a folder for you, and that folder is your fasten home. In that fasten home, so that instance of the fasten which is running, which is fasten run, you can call it a node in this fasten decentralized network. You can even call it entity. The word we use is actually entity. So node could have been used, but we are calling entity. And entities are of a few kinds. So as you will see, rig is one entity, and I'll describe this. And accounts and devices are the other two entities. So each entity, the most important thing about each entity has its own ID, whatever ID 52, basically a public private key, and each entity can technically communicate to each other through IROF protocol, right? So the entity kind, so when you run fasten run for the first time, the rig will get created for you. So I will explain what it does, and it will also create one account for you, right? So we will discuss this in a bit. So so we are Automerge first, means we are using document Automerge documents. Automerge is going to be built as a fundamental feature, right? Key, anything you store in this database where you have a key value pair, this thing, and each value is a document. Um, so if we have a number of such documents, that those documents can easily sync with each other. So our idea is that we want to be configuration and metadata as much as possible should be stored in Automerge, because then syncing will take care of. So let's say if you change some setting like your name on your phone, that my name now onwards going to be whatever, you want it to be updated on all your devices, right? So if the data is stored in some sort of SQL table, we'll have to write some sort of custom code to read this value and then share it with the other devices that you're supposed to share it with. But if you put it in part of Automerge, the Automerge syncing, so there is just magical Automerge syncing things that are available to you. So if you put it anything there, it will automatically do the kind of the right thing. So that's our first principle. So of course we don't have any central servers, and privacy is extremely offline. First is our extreme directives, like what we are trying to do. So the core entities, like I said, first rig first entity is the rig. So when you run the fast and run, that
Sorry,
single
I lost your screen again. I think after some time of inactivity, it stops it automatically.
got it. Whenever you lose the screen, just tell me so that I can
Yeah.
reshare. So when you run fast and run, that single process can run multiple accounts and multiple devices, and it might sound like nonsense. Why would you want to do that? But let's just assume it is possible for that single fasten process. So you're supposed to only run fasten process on that machine wherever you're running. So fasten is a simple Rust program, so it's very easy to deploy, etc., etc. We only depend on SQLite, so there's no external dependency. All you need is just a binary. It will create a folder, and you're supposed to back up the folder, etc. So we have a very nice deployment story. Anyway, so the idea is that there is an entity called rig, which is the entity that you talk to that fast and run server, right? So like basically there's some things that fast and run, like for example to shut down that fast and run server, right? So the rig exists. So rig is a network node or whatever in our this thing, which basically means that I can tomorrow control fast and run, which is running on my laptop from any device that I own, right? Assuming I have all the right access and ownership, etc. set up. So that's there from kind of like a day one. So this is a fast and hold home folder that I discussed, and inside that we have a folder called rig, which contains rig.id52, which is the public whatever. So everywhere you will see this id52 and private key pairs. So you can treat them as a single this thing. Either of the two will be present, not both. We have a fallback based thing. So we first look at this guy. If it is found, we look for the key in the keychain. If it is not found, meaning that you probably don't have keychain working on your machine, then we look for the key inside this private key. We also look for the key in one variable, but I'm not going to go there. Just
Mhm.
that's some
So,
arcane use case thing. So obviously this JSON is wrong. There would be whatever configuration is there. We will try to, but maybe it is fine. We'll think about it because the rig is never to be shared with anyone. It doesn't have any syncing.
hmm,
So there's a guy who has ownership over the rig, but the rig data doesn't get synced with the that guy's whatever personal machine or whatever. So and there would be a public folder. We'll come to it because all the Fasten application that you see, the Fasten, the reason Fasten compiler and the language, all of that will live inside this folder. So you can have a bunch of FTD files, or you can have a bunch of HTML files and some template that we support. So you can build your Fasten applications and put them here. We'll go over these details later on. So the first entity is the rig, and then as soon as you start your fasten, if the your home folder fasten home folder is not initialized, it will get initialized by fasten will create these files, and then it will create the first account. So every fasten machine will have at least one account, right? And so so this is the kind of story. So each account basically represents either a user or some sort of organization, right? So if you think of in terms of Fasten universe, what is an account? Account is like either belongs to a. So we highly recommend that you almost should never have group stuff. So group is like how older whatever the Gmail, right? The Gmail was an artificial group. We all belong to Gmail somehow, and Gmail that nothing is common among us other than the fact that we're using a common product.
hmm,
Uh, so there's no, so we're very kind of like avoiding organization or a single user. So on a single user, single account should not store data from multiple people. It can store, so for example, let's say you and me are working on common folders or common photos or whatever. So sure, there would be some sort of sharing feature. So like the document will exist, document will always be owned by one of the accounts. So someone in this universe, everything is owned by an account, right? So ultimately the person who owns the account, let's say, has created the document or a photo or whatever, and that has been shared with you and me. Let's say I've shared that some document and photo, so that will live in your phone also and in my phone also. So anyway, so that is the account basic concept. So account will exist either for the user or the organization,
hmm,
personal account and group accounts. And regarding the identity, so now So each account will have a collection of ID 52 pairs. By default, one ID 52 pair would be created for you, a key pair would be created for you, which will be your default alias. In fact, actually, if you look at how the folder is data is written, so data is stored in fastn home slash accounts slash first alias, right? So the first alias is slightly interesting because it is used in the folder name, but otherwise we want alias to be as like there should be no primary alias concept, right? So and each alias can have public different public profile. We'll come to that in a bit. And yeah, so just go through the storage. So in account we are going to store Automerge, which is going to store the documents thing that I just discussed. Then we are going to have mail. So all the mails that we are going to store are going to be stored in this mail folder, but also in this mail.sqlite. Right. So there would be the data in the folder would be also kept in SQLite for better, So we are going to support IMAP, which has search support. So powering things like search is better if we have all the data available to you as inside SQLite, some sort of appropriate full text index or something. So therefore, we will be creating all of that here.
I lost your
DB.SQLite
screen. So,
screen lost.
yeah,
Really? It's a full bug. I'm so not even inactive now.
yeah.
Yes. Um, yeah. So I was talking about how these folders, the public folder, for example, there or the public folder here, can contain some faster application. We're not going to, but that faster application can have some tables, etc., and they will all be so. So again, let me mental model wise. This is when you run fast and run, and the account gets created, and if you use that account is your primary account. Let's say you share that account with me and now I add you as a friend or whatever. So with that account I can actually access a site also running on your machine, which will be served by this public folder, right? So if I know your this ID 52, which is the accounts, one of the aliases, right? You will probably not share, like you can create multiple aliases. You'll probably share one of them with me and one with someone else. This is a good technique to do some sort of like finding out who is, like, for example, let's say if you're sharing your ID on a public forum like Reddit, right? So don't share your primary account on Reddit. Share your an alias which is Reddit specific alias. So if some abuse starts coming to you from the Reddit side, you can go and disable that key, and then suddenly that whole thing is gone, right?
Mhm.
You don't have to recreate your email address. That is what would have happened if your email was leaked on Reddit and if you're being abused. You have to just ask everyone to stop using your email. Obviously, for this to really happen, you have to create a Reddit specific identity or alias. Sorry. So anyway, so this is the this thing. So the mental model again is this is your server, right? So you will stop running servers on cloud, AWS, etc. You will run that server, and this server can have, sounds like a fixed kind of thing, but it can have any feature you want, right? So fast and general purpose web server. So this public folder will contain any Fastn application you want, and that could itself be composed of lots of different Fastn application bundled together, etc. So you can basically run anything on this machine and share it with the world. And but some of the things like mail and Automerge will be automatically kind of synced. Right? So the
Can I ask
relationship
a
with,
question?
yeah, yeah, sure, sure, sure.
So, about the folder structure, can you scroll a little bit up? Right. So, all the aliases for an account is nested inside the first alias directory. Is that correct?
Only one alias directory, why not first?
So, yeah. So, if I make an account, I will have slash account slash the ID 52 of that account, right?
Of the first alias,
Yeah, and all the other aliases will be nested inside that aliases,
including the first.
including the first one, right? So,
Yeah.
how do you look up? So, let's say if I want to know, let's say I'm sending an email, right? And I have an alias, so some
Hmm.
username at some ID 52 alias. So, how do I look that up? Because the mails directory is one level up the aliases folder. So in my head, I'm thinking that you have to first find out which alias. Uh, First, you have to find out that account.
Yeah, you'll have to create appropriate SQ. Yeah, yeah, that will be created. This data, the schema that you're saying will be stored inside this rig.db.
Okay, acha, got it.
All the aliases, all the stuff on that rig are here because rig has access to this entire thing. So there's nothing private from rig. So rig will create a database. If you look at the rig database schema, you'll see one of them is to track this exact thing. Yeah, we'll
Okay,
go on.
okay, got it. No, I was
I'll
just concerned how will you find out stuff because stuff is nested inside folder directories.
It's not hard problem, right? It just means we have to create some sort of indexes or some
Right.
data.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll do that. Yeah.
Continue.
So relationships I was talking about. So accounts will have multiple devices. So we'll come to a distinction between account device a little bit more in a later section. Account can own other accounts like group accounts. They can also own a rig. Let me write that. Okay, so they can own rigs, obviously. Can have peer relationship like friends or all sorts of relationships. So I might be following you, or you might be whatever. So this kind of relationship between accounts, and finally, uh, so this is another important criteria. Each peer, let's say if I am known to you, I might known to you with one ID, one alias, and someone else, let's say my work colleague, might be knowing me through another um, alias. Anyway, so we'll discuss some of these things later, and we'll come back to the next topic. Then we have device. The
Oh, I
idea is that
lost your screen.
no, this is starting to get annoying.
Yeah.
It's
Um,
Google Meet, it's Chrome, it's Apple. I have not used anything other than the ones that each of this combination is used by billions of people, and they're failing at such a fundamental. Anyways, so the idea is that, like for example, if I have created an Apple account, so there's a single Apple account, and then all my devices like Macs and iPhones, etc., are kind of like devices, and my data centrally lives in kind of like how do I say, the Apple account, but each device has the same authority as me. Obviously, there might be some restrictions. We might allow restricted devices tomorrow, but for now, let's assume ki if you are on the device which is connected to an account, you are acting on behalf of the account, right? So you're assumed to be that person or the entity who is owning that particular device. So that's the so device also has again a key pair. Um, each device must have exactly one owner. They will be stored in this folder structure. As you see, they they will have Automerge in this Automerge documents, right?
yes.
But they will not have mail, and they can have whatever. So we should probably, and they should have user. So yeah. So as a rule we have created for now, key devices can only connect to the owning account. So the reason for that rule is we want to minimize the amount of connections in general, right? In the network, we want the network to be as efficient as possible. So for example, if there is one account and five devices, that is total five exchanges, right? If the devices only speak with account, but if the devices talk to each other also, then the number of exchanges goes up by n into n minus one kind of fashion, which is pretty whatever high. And then that with that goes the complexity of the software. So we are trying to in that interest. So we are looking at complexity of the software. We are also looking at accidental privacy revealing each other. Like I don't want these IDs because aliases are, while you're sharing your aliases, you are still keeping aliases private, right? Device IDs also similarly are to be private. Otherwise, you and me, if we if you get my laptop ID, right? Then even if you have two aliases, if they are sharing the same laptop ID, you will get to know okay, the two aliases belong to the same device, right? So for multiple reasons, we are trying to be very we are close by default network. When we open some direction of communication, we are like okay, we need to justify that. So for now, this is our kind of assumption. Ki Okay, so they never connect directly to each other, and they can do browsing. So we'll come to this browsing part in a little bit. Now let's talk about email, right? So every Fasten account, right? So every Fasten account has a, as you see, this mail feature, right? So so this is a fully decentralized so, so accounts can talk to each other and exchange emails through each other. Each fast and run, when you run it in the account mode, whenever you launch or create, if your rig ever gets an account, it now knows that you will also need some sort of IMAP and POP3 and SMTP protocol servers. So Fast and Mail will start running those servers as well, right? So we will come to that in a bit. So one decision that we have taken is key. Uh, Actually, so this pretends to be key each. So the statement is true. Each alias that you created is an email domain, and you can share. So, for example, you can share one email address with me, Amityu at alias one, and or rather, I can share one with Siddhant and other alias with someone else, and both of them are valid email address, but we organize emails by usernames and not by aliases. This is kind of like a decision we have taken. We could have taken by alias also, but I feel like most of the time when I have aliases, I don't want multiple mailboxes. I want a single mailbox with multiple aliases, and most of the time I want to deal with single mailbox because checking mail in 20 different mailboxes is just full headache, right? You have to go to inbox zero in 20 different places. I tend to prefer one unless there's a strong reason, in which case we will probably want to create a separate account altogether and not create a separate alias.
Hmm.
But if you really want to, you can still create a new username also. So for example, I can say fasten add something and Amitu as something as two different how do I say, email accounts I have created, irrespective of which email alias I use. For me, there are two accounts, Amitu and Fasten. So we will see. Some of these things are I'm very happy to open, and these are early thoughts when we
Yeah,
start
I
implementing.
lost your screen.
I am now seeing some sort of flash happening. Something is happening on my screen, which some quick. I don't know what was that, but something happened, moved really fast on my screen, and
I
then
think
you
you are
said,
on the latest macOS beta, so that might have some bug.
yeah, most likely. I'm on all betas. Anyway, so and this is another important decision we have taken. Earlier, we thought key accounts can share the data with devices, emails with devices, and so therefore emails will live both on your this thing. One problem is key email tends to be pretty heavy, and on most devices, your any which is going to have some email client that is going to copy those emails from you one folder to another. So this would be like a, if you have 10 GB of email, 10 GB of email live in fasten folder, but then the same 10 GB of folder mails will also live in your Apple Mail folder because obviously Apple Mail is going to read them, copy it, and keep it. So we have decided not to copy emails to what is called devices.
Hmm.
Address format, like I said, key username at any of the aliases. We can tomorrow allow .com, etc., just to make sure key email clients who expect a .com or some sort of TLD can honor or don't mind this address. So in that case, .com, etc., will be also allowed. The good thing is because the mail is being sent by the mail client via our SMTP server, we can figure out and do the right thing. We can ignore that
Hmm.
.com.
Yeah.
And so username, nothing really interesting. Standard email rules. aliases are like this, and yeah. Just I want to re-emphasize, it's a very common thing key for creating a .com or buying a domain to create multiple email account, one for yourself, one for your wife or friend or whatever,
Right.
which is not what you should think of doing. Here you should create a, because it's free. Obviously, you can create any number of accounts. So every account should be, so if you have multiple usernames, it's probably because you want to keep two or three different kind of emails apart, and not because of some you're two different people. So it's a very strong thing. Devices and accounts, they all belong to a single human being. Anything, any class software solution you come up with, you'll say, oh, for this person, I will have lots of accounts, or one account per folder, or one account for this per location. You're kind of architecting it wrong. It's like one alias should be one, sorry, one account should be one human being, one device should be one device. So which also means ki on a typical rig, you will typically either have the rig, you will definitely have the rig. Most cases you will have a account, right? Or you will have a device, you will just have one of them, right? So for example, if I install something on my fastn on my iPhone, I will just configure it as a device. In fact, I will also, if I install it on my this laptop, I will also configure it as a device. One interesting or one important consideration for the device is that, so for the account is that account should have very high uptime, right? So because if the account is down, while the account is down, your devices can't sync data with each other. You cannot sync data with each other, and mails that are being sent to you will be bouncing in that duration and so forth, right? So account has higher uptime requirements. Obviously, no one stops you or no one will complain if it doesn't have high requirement. Network will retry and some sort of service you will get. But for optimal service, account should be up online most of the time. And and for that reason, we kind of tend to recommend ki while we are decentralized, it is still probably a good idea to so the two cases where you should put your account is either some sort of server, like you can get a server for Linode or any DigitalOcean or any of the cloud, AWS, and so on. So you can run faster on any of those machine and make them your account, which you will have to then back up, etc. Or you can buy a Raspberry Pi or something in your office, or a desktop in your office or home, which if you believe that your home has reasonably high, internet plus electricity combination. So in that case, you can run your account from your desktop. That is obviously the most secure one, is to run it in your house, right? Otherwise, you can run it on some sort of data center. You can also, we are going to offer our own hosting. So instead of taking from AWS or Google, you can take it from us. We are going to be way more privacy respecting than others. But yeah, so so we are expecting when you're launching your Fasten, it will actually first ask you, do you already have an account? If not, it will recommend, can you create, if you want, you can create an account on Fifth or Fasten Cloud or whatever we end up calling it. And otherwise, you can use your laptop as account. I mean, nobody can stop you from using your iPhone as account or whatever. So
Yeah, I lost
now,
the screen again just now.
load the screen. Yeah. Okay. So now we have already discussed Automerge, sorry, mail. Let's again review our, sorry, mail is not yet done. So mail may will, so this design is open yet. So this is wrong. This should be mail.db. Actually, it's a mail.db at a higher level.
Right.
It is at this level. And I think I'll have to put this pipe. I'll do it later.
Uh,
Um, so So username based folders, timestamp prefix. Again, I'm not 100% sure about this. Should we have this or should we keep it in the SQL? So SQL, this is what we have thought of. So we'll have a SQL database. Now this actually is probably open to change. I'm happy to convert this thing to a what is called Automerge document. So even though mail ka data will not be synced, I'm happy to, for example, let you change your mail password from any device. Don't have to come to your account to change, let's say, username password. You can do it from any of your devices because that is just an Automerge document. So if you update the Automerge document whenever it gets synced, next time when you SMTP server client contacts the server, it will use the latest password from the Automerge document. But here currently it's stored as a table, so we will have to probably update this design. Mail, we can look at it. So I think this is some kind of like a simple-ish JSON. JSON, everything is kind of JSON,
Yeah.
and yeah, not much unless you're interested in details of email. Attachment, may again, I'm happy with attachment being stored in an object store that we are going to create instead of on this thing, but we still need attachment metadata. So this table will still exist. This file path may be, so we'll have to decide where it is getting stored. Is it getting
Mm.
stored in public or some other. So these details are least sure. So you will send some sort of create a struct. You will send it to the other side basically, and obviously from must match. So the from must match from the guy who has sent it, right? So whichever alias you have, the P2P connection must be created from this alias, right? When you, if from this public key or whatever, it is sent from this from. So that's the all the authentication we care about, because if it is coming from them, this line is verified, then we don't have to verify anything else. We can store it. Obviously, along with this table, we will probably also have some sort of more tables for like how much data, like let's say if you are sending me a lot of mails, I can put maybe some sort of limit ki, okay, Siddhant can only send me total of 1 GB of emails or some such.
Mhm.
After that or cycle, so we'll have a lot of mail related features, right? So the cool geeky mail features that you think of in all those the CLI mail clients and all of them, right? So we will have, what is that, like mail, every time a mail receives, some CHS program is run. What do you call it?
I think you might be referring to NeoMut or Mut, but I'm not.
Exactly. So if you look at those tools, they have huge amount of interesting, cool.
Yeah.
Uh, Anyway, so username authentication wise, so username is this. Password, as I said, we are going to store password in this Automerge document. So if you look at, I think we just started here, right? So create and save document, and I think fast an account will be calling this guy. See, where is, no, just create is calling it. So something like this is what is coming, right? So we have created a, how have we created Automerge? Yes. Mm, we'll have to see that. Like I think this is not yet. Ah, okay. So we create this auto commit and we store all the. So this is where the password is. So you will be asking for, and this document will have a standard name. So this is the, so this is the username, right? So username is default. So obviously the name of the document, this name of this is called default. So for the username default, this is what is coming up. So from this document, you'll get the password hash, and then you will enable, you will do the password hash based password verification.
Yeah, I lost a screen again. This is
Yeah,
becoming annoying.
I know. Anyways, so bottom line is key in some Automerge document, we are going to store the username password, the hash password.
Right.
The default password is created when the account is created, so it will get printed when you whenever you start the fasten for the first time. Initially, this instruction will be printed on the STD out. Tomorrow, the whole rig will become an proper server, and you will be able to connect to that server and do these things like creating a new whatever, not running actually account only, because this is account specific data.
Yeah.
So we'll see. We'll look at that in future. For now, it will automatically get created. Some random password will be created and printed for you. That is how we are starting. Um, so yeah, these are IMF features. We'll try to have as many features, right?
Mhm.
So these are the standard stuff. SMTP again. We are whatever transport security, etc., is taken care by Arrow more or less, right? So, uh, so we have only authenticated people, rate limiting, allow list, block list. So we can create some sort of centralized allow list, block list. If I know someone is a spammer, I can submit their alias to a spam list, and then if multiple people are submitting that spam list, then maybe that will start flagging that as a spammer. So we'll create some sort of centralized, because it is hard to we if we can design it in a decentralized way, I'm happy to do that. Otherwise, I'm happy to allow some sort of centralized, especially Wikipedia centralization. I don't mind, right?
Yeah.
Because to me, this kind of service would be sort of like a public data service, which I'm happy to run, assuming we get some funding, etc. for that. Future email features, end-to-end encryption. I don't think so. Mailing list, absolutely yes. Email filters, of course. Full text search, email backup, external gateway. Yeah, we definitely will be at some point running a bridge so that you can even uh, send mails to us. So I think it is possible for us to get the MX server, etc., done. And anyways, we'll figure about this later on. So one this thing that I wanted to have is key while Fasten is coming, we are making fastn a more of a general purpose framework. So you can create some sort of like a public folder, and you can have, let's say, this API slash users dot wasm. So any API slash users request will be forwarded to this wasm internally. Similarly, any dashboard will be, if it is an FHTML, then it will be rendered through our whatever templating library will figure that out, and so on. So with this you can actually do a lot through wasm, because you can put any arbitrary logic through HTML template. You can do a lot of interesting stuff, because the coolness is ki we already have Automerge and SQLite, right?
Mhm.
So we will very soon have some sort of a config file also, which will tell us the migration, so we can create a table for your application, and then we can then run SQL queries from this dashboard.html and so on, right? So we can do this kind of easy blah blah, right? So it can become like a general purpose web server that you have with some whatever FHTML feature. It's almost like PHP, right? You can think of this as PHP, because FHTML is equivalent to the PHP. So we can create a PHP, but we are not creating a full PHP. Very soon, this is what you will be doing. Actually, that's the direction we are going. So FHTML, but is still there for you for basic uh, applications. If you really want to quickly build something, maybe you just prefer that FHTML based approach. So so regarding the URL structure, obviously we are going to have this routing, right? So our server will run on randomly some port, and then ID 52 corresponding. This this is possible. So if the ID 52 doesn't belong to one of the excuse me, then we will proxy it to another. So let's say if I want to browse Siddhant's website, I will access Siddhant's ID 52.localhost. On my machine, I will use .localhost. And that request will go to our fastn, which will know, okay, I have over peer-to-peer, I have to contact Siddhant's server, and that request, HTTP request, will go to fastn server running on Siddhant's machine over peer-to-peer, and then the result will be forwarded back to us. So yeah. Automate documents. So documents will have, so first thing for each document is that we have a path of each document. Um, so 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 the path for documents actually are not going to be a single path but multiple paths for some reason. You could have handled it through columns, like there's a path and then there's a owner. but we want to encode the owner into the path. Now, in order to encode the owner in the path, I cannot pick any particular alias. All my documents belong to all my aliases, right?
Mm.
So I don't have any preferred, so I just use mine as a prefix. So these are all my documents. I'm happy to change the prefix, but that's what I've used so far. But if I have shared, if you have shared some document with me, I have received from one particular alias. From my point of view, you are not account, you are one alias, right? Because I'm hopefully our system will not even going to allow you to store okay, how many Siddhant aliases are there? Give me all of them, right? It just doesn't make sense because from my point of view, you'll probably never share me as an alias. So whichever shared alias that you have in my database,
I lost your
uh,
screen again.
sorry. So, anyways, so because of that tracking purpose of who owns this document, we use this schema. Examples of some of the documents are this. We have this special thing called slash dash. So this config, for example, is configuration for my account. Um, this is a central configuration document, right? So any account specific configuration you can store in this. Um, for every ID 52, right, we are going to have a document, I think, over here. Huh? So let's go through this. So there is a document config which I shared, said that this is a common one. Most likely this is how it will look like, but it can look like anything. Aliases, I'm not sure will be here. I think it's just so ignore aliases. Then obviously we can support. So we have a concept of groups for permission management. So I've not described this, but for each group we will have a folder, right? So this is a document. Sorry. So for each group there will be a document, and that will contain group specific data. For every alias there would be a README document. So this document alias slash dash slash readme is the, so anyone who has created this alias will create this readme also. So you will share that. So it's like Siddhant alias slash readme will tell me that this display name is Siddhant and bio is whatever and so forth, right? So this is like a public profile maintained by the alias owners, and whenever you and me connect for the first time, right, so we exchange this public this document, right? So you will receive my readme and I'll receive your readme, and we will be subscribed to each other's readmes, and anytime my readme changes I will share it with everyone, right? Obviously when I'm connecting you at that time I might have different roles, so I might not share my readme with everyone, so it might be key I'm sharing my readme with only some people. So that is where the kind of like this group feature comes up. So there would be some sort of like uh, a virtual group, which if that doesn't exist it will be shared with everyone. If that group exists, only people who are there in that group will receive your
Mm.
readme file, something like that. So, and then this is notes. So this is my private notes about this particular alias, right? So who is this alias? So if it is my own alias, then I'm storing ki why did I create this alias? If it is your alias, then it is my note about Siddhant, right? So it's a single document that I maintain about Siddhant, which is shared with all of my machines, and user profile, etc. page will be powered by, will include this data from this place. Then for every device we will have a readme file.
Mm.
uh, yeah, not much there. Every device will have a config file, right? You can argue why do I need two different files, we'll think. For every relationship, right? So I will have, so this is everyone that I know, so this is ID 52 for them, and this will contain some of the data. You can argue ki if
It's
this is there, then
4:30.
why do I need the readme? So there is a conflict between what is in the, sorry, in the notes, because this and this has similar structure other than the path. So these two can be the same or these two can be separate. We'll think about it, but you can get the philosophy that we are trying to follow.
Mm.
And then any document which doesn't start or contain this slash dash slash will be called a user document. Uh, The interesting thing is slash dash meta. So after any user document, you can add slash dash meta, which will be the sharing and metadata about this document, which will be only shared with uh, uh, who has any permission. This is actually wrong. Who has share permission? So meta documents is only visible to owners and high level people.
Mhm.
So this is actually, we are not going for this. So whatever information we want to publicly share can be stored in the document itself. I don't have to create a separate document for that. So the fact that I've created a separate document is because I want to restrict the visibility of this document. So it can't be shared with everyone that has that document. If that was the case, then we just need one document. So,
Yeah, lost your
per-
screen again.
so permission levels. So we have ascending permission or descending permission system. So admin at the top, share, then write, then comment, then read. We also have groups. So and it's just groups, like you can categorize users into groups, and probably you can put groups also in other groups. So we have nested this thing, and to make it faster we have a cache. So we have a SQLite table somewhere. uh, yeah. So Automerge SQLite contains these tables. The most interesting document table is this fastn documents table, and then the sync state table. uh, these are the caches. So relationship, we will cache them and put them here. Similarly, fastn permissions and fastn group caches. So these three caches were felt like needed because the query for them was not obvious. So, and also they felt like I often need to do query on them. So they should be in SQL. Mail will contain these three. As we discussed, this may end up being a document. So we'll see. db.sqlite will contain whatever table that user ends up. So all the WASM will contain some sort of migration, or our config will contain some migration SQL. Uh, yeah, we can look at the schema of auto merge and details of that stuff, but I'm going to skip through
Yeah,
that.
this might also change, so there is no.
Yeah, exactly. This is also under development. So there's some Rust code to for you to see how things are happening. But we will keep updating it. I think uh, yeah, sync. So there are rules key which document gets synced with who and so on. So we'll have to keep like documenting these key. This goes to all my devices. This goes to so etc. etc. So we'll have to. This will become much more elaborate, hopefully, syncing patterns.
Right.
Connection model, just for a reminder, uh, so this is a device to account relationship. How does connection?
Mhm.
So it's kind of, I don't know, some details about the connection process. Device to foreign account browsing. Huh. So this is another interesting thing, that we do allow foreign account browsing, but to do that there are two different ways. One is to direct anonymous browsing. For this, we will create a temporary browsing ID and then use that ID to browse. So this way your device ID will not be revealed to the ID that you're browsing to. But this is slightly less anonymous, because potentially your device IP is visible to the other side of the P2P connection. So therefore, if you're really, really careful about privacy or whatever, paranoid about privacy, you should not use that, and you should use this one. So in this case, device will ask the owner A to do the connection part. So the foreign account will only see account A's ID. So again, you can just create a brand new account just for anonymous browsing. So maybe for every account or whatever faster cloud, we will also give you n number of anonymous browsing accounts also, which will be for free, which will be like kind of. You can use it for browsing private anonymously, because then our IP address would be kind of disclosed and not because these would be stored on our infrastructure. So you
Right.
will get certain amount of anonymity because our IP address would show up in logs. Uh, this is another feature that we are going to support. So normally, if you have to talk to, let's say, if my phone has to talk to Siddhant, my friend's laptop for some reason, um, normally I would access through these two ways. So if I'm browsing via account A, then so Siddhant's laptop will know that this request is coming from Amityu, because Amityu and Siddhant relationship already exists. So, and the laptop also has access to that relationship. So that when the request comes from Amityu, the device knows, ki, okay, this is Amityu and Amityu is a friend. So the device, fastn server, can then show some private data to Amityu, which otherwise would not have. But so sometimes you want to browse on behalf of Amityu from your device via Amityu, via the account. So that is your proxied mode, right? So that is this. So this could be proxied anonymously and proxied non-anonymous. Like this is just proxied browsing, right? So
Yeah.
anonymous or not depends. Uh,
And I lost your screen and so
oh, this is really annoying. I'll update all my browser and everything to this. Okay, so bottom line is in this delegated case, my device can request a temporary token from my account, right? So my laptop will request something from Amitio account saying, give me a token. And then when my laptop is contacting, let's say, Siddhant's account, it will pass that token saying, see, I am actually Amitio, right? So the advantage of that would be ki I am not doing a intermediary communication, I'm doing a direct communication. And that particularly becomes important in the case of, let's say, tomorrow when we support video streaming or file downloads and stuff like that, right? In such cases, you don't want to do it via an intermediary, which will slow down and increase the cost, double the cost everywhere. So, so we support this delegated flow. I think we are kind of uh, looking at most. We have understood most of the stuff.
right.
Yeah. So this is kind of like the universe that every account is a web server. The most important thing, every account is an identity key pair, and because it has key pair, the key pair in our network acts like IP address. So every entity can talk to every other entity, and uh, and we are creating an SQLite-based database-based universe where there are a lot of SQLite databases, and these SQLite databases largely contain Automerge sync documents that get synced through us. So we are peer-to-peer automatically synced database which manages permission. We have a decent permission system. We will review the permission details when you are so you can create groups, and then again, I think Siddhant, if you remember, we had some conversation about you can store users to groups, or you can even store documents to groups, and
Yeah.
then you can have arbitrary group to group relationships, key permission rules, key this user belonging to this group can access a document belonging to that group or something like that, right? So this kind of language will be there in your access permission page, right? So we'll create a bunch of such rules, and we'll see how. Yeah. So, so any questions or any thoughts that you have so far?
No, so the general idea of uh, how how all of this is supposed to work, that is clear to me. Why we are going to have to need the web server, that makes sense. Why? Because we have to serve HTML content. One reason. Then we obviously like have to have to support existing SMTP clients because that makes everything a lot easier.
Yeah.
Because people may not want to try. our stuff out if they have to download us, right? So, in fact, in terms of implementation, that is how I think like we have to start with first class support for existing SMTP clients. Then, but if you want like pure P2P stuff, like you want none of Fastn Cloud or a machine in between, then you have to install something to have the direct connection with you and the other party. Yeah, with this line, like there is a lot of stuff that has to go in the implementation detail to handle both these cases. But I think we and everyone who is watching this will have a better idea as we start implementing this.
Yeah, agreed. So it's kind of like, see, some of the ideas are more, how do I say, I have spent more time on.
Yeah.
Um, and some ideas are obviously fresh idea that you might have gotten right before the call. Definitely none of them is really, really in the code yet. So we are kind of building in public and we have a now
Hmm.
in terms of like generally for you guidelines and we are looking at some sort of like I still feel reasonably confident that end of August is something that we can target for first release of Fasten, which would be the Fasten mail.
Hmm.
And so mail will need accounts, so automatic recreation, automatic account creation, automatically Automerge document which stores the username password. This should be done. That is kind of I am doing. And what you have to do is to research on the SMTP and IMAP and POP
Right.
and the folder structure, right? Like where the in the mails folder, how are we going to organize content, and then obviously how are we going to sync that data with SQLite. So whenever an email is received, right, you'll probably be writing such functions like add a mail to the one of the folders and delete some mails from some folder, or mark mails as read, unread, and whatever is there delivered, or whatever is the so that way so that's the universe of mail side. And on the mail side we have to worry about all the like IMAP features. So we have to try out with some real email client whether basic functionality is working, and then figure out, like for example, if I'm creating a folder, does it really get created on my machine, or they are creating local folder? We want as much data to be on my machine, right? So maybe so that's. So, but yeah, I feel like if we ignore the advanced stuff, look at the basic stuff, I believe we should be able to do this by end of this
Hmm. Yeah.
August. And once it is done, we can look at like in future we can create, let's say, a mail web UI, so that our account can on slash dash mail or something, we can just serve a whole UI serving emails. And so you will not even worry about the email client. In fact, you can argue you may have to write some less code, because then you don't have to worry about IMAP and
Right.
SMTP protocol. But whatever we do, creating an email client which is a production ready email client that a company, like let's say any company that we want to sell to, will use our mail client day in and day out, is a multiple month project. So obviously doing it through
Definitely.
protocol,
Yeah.
allowing people to use their standard uh, email tools, and it's obviously the second is obviously the, how do I say, the cloud part. We should hopefully in September we should spend money on or time on creating the whole cloud and so on. So yeah, this is the plan. There.
Yeah. I think there's not nothing left. We can end the podcast. Cool.
We'll do this weekly. Next week we'll probably discuss whatever we have ended up building this week. So we have,
Yeah. Hopefully.
yeah, hopefully we have demo in last next one.
Hmm. Yeah. I mean, I don't want to like announce anything, but I'm also thinking like all the SMTP stuff that I will be exploring. I want to do that live on the fastn-stack channel because I'll be
Yeah.
learning, even if it is garbage, like I get I get rid of my camera anxiety and so, which is something to get out of. Anyways, so I'm going to stop the recording.
Yeah.